I'm very happy to be before you tonight in order to present the 2022-2026 Park and Recreation Master Plan. As Elizabeth had just summarized, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan is necessary for us to be eligible for DNR grants every 5 years. This plan was presented before the Planning Commission at their meeting last Wednesday, where we had an active public hearing and we received really good input from the members who were present at the time. And the Planning Commission made a recommendation to send it on to the Board of Trustees tonight. If the Board of Trustees approve the plan tonight, the goal is to submit this plan to the DNR by February 1st to their online portal in order to be eligible for the next round of grants. I want to go over a few salient points in this Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The first one would be, I'll go over in brief because the plan is very extensive. The first one is the demographic characteristics of this project. We were able to get data from the 2020 census, which shows that Underwood Township had a 5% growth in population, and the projected population increase over the next 10 years is another 20%. But most municipalities around us are aging. The population range that is going to increase most in Underwood Township is 15 and to 85 years of age group. This is the age group of the young people who actually use these recreation facilities, and also the older population that would like to use the passive recreational amenities that are provided, which makes this Parks and Recreation Master Plan all that more important. The plan before you tonight just includes the previously done greenways and trail study that was done and the 2015 walkability audit that we completed for all of township. So the elements of all other recreation, active or passive, have also been included as part of this project. The design of this particular master plan is what is required under DNR. DNR has got specific chapters and sections that you must include in your proposal, which is what we have done. If you look at the administrative structure of the Parks and Rec Master Plan was redone. The whole department was reorganized in 2021. At this time, we do have a director of community services, and under that we have a director of parks, and we have a director of recreation too. The plan that is before you tonight includes a budget for the 2020-2021 year, what was used, and now it also includes a projected budget for 2022. In addition to that, we have a detailed grant history, all the parks and rec projects that have been accomplished in Underwood Township and the source of funding. And these sources are numerous. We have gotten some through the Natural Resources Trust Fund, for example, for the Irondale Trail. We have had some through the CDBG grant, which was the saddle portion of the Irondale Trail. We have had some from the general funds and some through just donations from private parties. So all of this information is included as part of this Parks and Rec Master Plan. The next important component is the Parks and Rec inventory. This is one of the most important aspects of the whole plan, which basically outlines all the parks, facilities we have within the township. And they are classified anywhere from mini parks all the way to regional parks and facilities. Basically, under DNR regulations, anything that is within a 60-mile radius of the township is considered as a recreational amenity that is available to the citizens of the township itself. The smallest of those is the mini parks, which are generally half acre in size and are accessible within a quarter-mile walking distance. So we have maps where we show which are the neighborhoods that actually have access to these mini parks and those that don't. For 20 years, DNR had the same standards for how to classify all parks. They completely revamped their system last year, and they classified them based upon their size and based upon their accessibility. Now, the accessibility is on a scale of 1, which is considered really poor, to 5, which is really good. Accessibility is not merely barrier-free access for those who are disabled, but it's also for those who are differently able, for those who are in strollers, anybody who has any kind of challenges in trying to reach these facilities. All those, the trail system, is it reachable to the general public? All those factor into accessibility. And based on this accessibility, the parks are classified numerously all of the parks are rated on a scale of 1 to 5. When we look at all the parks, for example, the rec ball fields are rated 4, which is really good. Most of our parks are rated high, including Van Buren Park, which has got a 5 on 5 rating. The one park that needed some more attention is the French Landing Park. The plan that is before me tonight actually raised it as a 1. That park did come up for discussion at the Planning Commission meeting, and we will be revising the rating. The rating at the time it was put in there did not take into account the completion of phase 1 improvements that were done this year at the park. I believe French Landing got a new pavilion and also some trails put into that, which definitely add to that rating, so it will probably come up to a 2 or a 2.5 at least. There are further improvements slated for the park this year. It is my understanding that there might be a canoe kayak launch. There's going to be furniture in the pavilion, and other improvements are a fishing dock. So those will definitely improve the rating of the French Landing Park. All of these plans and ratings mean nothing if we don't have an action plan of how we are going to get there. And that is one of the important portions of the plan. This map before you shows you where the parks are and what their accessibility is concerned. The yellow circles represent the quarter-mile radius for mini parks from neighborhoods. As you can see, there are some neighborhoods that really don't have access to a mini park. DNR has a system where they classify, if you have so much population, how many facilities do you need? And that's what is included in this plan as a facilities analysis map. Based upon that, we have a surplus of about 540 acres of parkland. And the only reason we have that much is because the regional park system is also included in that count for DNR. But if you distill all of the requirements of DNR, we essentially come down to the fact that we are 3 acres short of mini parks. So basically, we do need at least 5 or 6 additional mini parks within neighborhoods in the township that do not have a park or a recreational area within a quarter-mile of walking distance. Anything beyond that is considered as a driving distance and not technically a mini or a neighborhood park. By having a plan like this, it helps the township board plan out, along with the Parks and Recreation Department, where you might want to acquire land, which neighborhoods you might want to create these new pocket parks in, and how to meet the recreational needs of the citizens who currently don't have any available. This plan before you tonight has got all of the updates in it. It also has goals and strategies, which are pretty much the same as your last plan. The goals and objectives generally tend to remain the same because the idea is to provide amenities to the citizens from the youngest to the oldest, things that are active and passive. In recent times, the township has made great strides. The pickleball court is an example of a mini park that is really successful. DNR has also got a chart which we have included within this plan that says if you have so much population, you need to have so many basketball courts. With this amount of population, you need to have so many soccer fields. For example, for a population of Van Buren, we are required to have a total of 4 basketball courts, and we have 6. So we have like possibly 2 surplus. But we do not have a dog park, we do not have a community pool, we do not have a skate courts. So the public input that was done through distribution over social media, and they were it's not, okay. So based upon the public feedback, we got a total of 130 responses back. In comparison to the last time, we got 120 responses. Considering the challenges we have faced in this pandemic of communicating mostly through social media, that is a pretty good response rate. Based upon that, the top 3 priorities that were identified by the residents, the first one was they wanted a dog park, they wanted to have a community pool, and they also wanted a skate park, and also increased programming in the parks for events, such as group yoga classes, group Zumba classes, stuff that can bring the whole community together. Those were designed as the priorities. The final component of this plan is the capital improvements plan. The capital improvements plan is important because it lays out all your goals and priorities that are summarized into this chart. It goes for the next 5 years. What are your plans for the various park improvements, in which parts they are going to be done, how much it is going to cost, and your potential funding sources. For example, if you have a project in the year 2024, say a portion, 2 small bits of the Ironbell Trail remain to be done. If that is budgeted to be done in the year 2024, say you get a CDBG grant in the 2022 cycle, you can always move that project up into 2022 and move a 2022 project down to 2024. As long as you identify the required projects within this 5-year capital improvements plan, the township is at a liberty to shift the projects around based upon availability of funding. The purpose of creating the list of projects and prioritizing them is merely wanting a project does not mean the reality. The township has to see the ability to acquire land, the cost of it, any liability associated with it, such as a swimming pool definitely is one of the challenging public amenities to be provided by any municipality. So it helps the township evaluate which are the number 1, 2, 3 projects that you would like to focus on, and based upon the funding that you get, you can prioritize and implement those projects first. It was universal that most residents wanted attention to be focused on the Van Buren Park and the Work Park. Those were the 2, along with creating more mini parks for the areas of the township that currently do not have access to such facilities. So this, in a nutshell, is a summary of the entire Parks and Rec Master Plan that is before you tonight. The Planning Commission meeting, we did receive feedback. Some of them were minor corrections, some typographical errors, which we will correct. And also we will be revising some of the accessibility ratings, for example, for the French Landing Park, and we're going to just make sure that we have the correct rating for all of the parks. Between last Wednesday and now, we have not yet had a chance to make all those and provide you with a clean copy, which we want to proofread one more time. So my request to you tonight would be to make a motion and adopt the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, subject to all the edits that were identified at the Planning Commission meeting public hearing, and any other changes the board might want to make tonight to the project. I would be happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Elizabeth and Jennifer will be able to help me out with that. Thank you.
Yes, Trustee Martin. You talked about many parks and whatever. Are you talking about Haggerty Park? That thing that works for Haggerty Park. That subdivision has over 700 homes. That part is actually.
Jennifer is very well versed in the state of all the parks and their individual considerations.
Hi there, and good evening. Nice to see all of you again. Feels like we've been in a dream for a couple of years. So Haggerty Park, right now we've got a lot of projects going on in other parks. We're looking at replacing a couple of pavilions at Van Buren, and we've got a big project still ongoing at French. Right now, there's nothing planned for Haggerty Park. It would be nice maybe in the future when we start turning our attention to that park to talk to the residents and see what they'd like there. It's odd in that it's in between 2 roads. So it's between Jackson and Hamilton, kind of concealed. The people who live right there, they know the park, they use it. There is a small play structure. There is a small pavilion with 2 picnic tables. There's a big open area where the kids like to play. So that would be something that if we decide to turn our attention to maybe doing something different there, that I would like to talk to the residents and see what they would like to see.
Any other questions?
I would just like to let the board know that at the Planning Commission, they were very pleased with the presentation, and they complimented everyone that had a hand in taking care of it because it was very well done. Most of the things that they did see that needed to be corrected were minimal at most. So it's just getting all those put back in order. So just to let you know, the Planning Commission definitely recommends you approve it because they were very pleased with the work that was done.
Any other questions?
I read this whole thing. I probably have 30 or 40 little changes that I wanted, but considering how big a document, how concise this document is, it is a plan trying to get more toward long-term capital plans. We're doing that right now with Plant Rand and other areas. So it's really exciting to have a 5-year, 10-year capital plan. So we have a blueprint going forward of where we might want to go. And of course, Haggerty Park is one of those ones that sometimes gets overlooked. Maybe we should redouble our efforts in that area too. Okay, I have no other questions. Does anybody else? Okay, I guess it's time to close the public hearing then. Can I get a motion?
I make motion to close. Good for it.
Bud? All right, hearing any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we are out of public hearing now. Moving forward, correspondence, announcements, and presentations. Trustee Martin? Well, they'll be going down to new business number 1. We're on correspondence, announcements, and presentations.
And then public comment.
Did you attend the London's event? Harry, Clerk Wright? Did you make comments? Okay, I have.
Oh, yeah. Any comments?
We're in presentations or correspondence.
Oh, that's what I thought about was. I don't have anything other than, yesterday was off because it was recognition of Martin Luther King birthday. And I could say mine, but I wish it was. But yesterday was my birthday. Right. And
Happy birthday again.
I would kind of like to see, I keep seeing different things in different communities. Like I got on Mayor Wild yesterday because he had this event. They had the Martin Luther King March, and it started at their city hall, but he didn't invite me. So he told me to make sure he invite me next time, but I would have went. I would like to see us put together some type of presentation, celebration from the Township Hall in regards to Martin Luther King Day. I think it's something I can spearhead for next year. I have consent of the board. I would like to see something like that.
Sure. I mean, if you guys could take the lead on it. And you know, obviously, Martin Luther King was just incredibly important to this country. We reminded people that this country's legacy was founded on the fact that all men were created equal. It's just something we should always remind ourselves.
Okay. And then did say something yesterday or the day before, whatever he did say something that I totally disagree with. He said that he thought that George Floyd death had more country awareness, or multi-country awareness than Martin Luther King death did. I think it was, you know, that he's talking about oranges and apples, and he's talking about that. What Martin Luther King was representing was totally different from what happened with George Floyd. Both was really bad, but I think Martin Luther King, what he was able to do was much bigger than the protests that happened behind George Floyd. Both was valuable, but we wouldn't be enjoying some of the things that we do now if it wasn't for Martin Luther King. And he was one of the bravest person probably the bravest person I know, because he knew that his life was going to be short. Like he said, he saw the end, but he never stopped. So to me, you can't even get any braver than that. When you know something's coming to an end soon, but you still steadfast for the better good of people. So I totally disagree with the president on that, even though I kind of understood what he was trying to say, but I think he kind of misspoke on that.
I do have 2 other announcements, and one of them is, quite frankly, I was amazed when I picked up the Independent and I saw that we have a student who received a national honor as being the Rookie of the Year for 14-year-olds, freshmen, for all football in the country. I follow this stuff. I mean, even when I was a kid, when I was 13, 14, and got Sports Illustrated, that'd be huge news if you saw, that would be Sports Illustrated article kind of stuff. I just want to say congratulations to Bryce Underwood, age 14. And I wish I had my glasses on, but he's a quarterback of the Belleville Tigers with a 13-win record. He's 6'3", 190 pounds at that age. He threw for 2,900 yards, 39 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's just incredible. We expect huge things. I don't know how he gets bigger than that, but this is just huge. And that's kind of cool. I also
I would agree on that.
Yeah.
We are starting to make it in the township. This guy is gonna be, you're gonna hear a lot of things about him coming forward.
Oh, I've already seen it on the internet all over the place. It just, this is, people know why you're noticing this, so. COVID though, we have to talk about COVID. There is free COVID kits, Debbie Dingle, Congresswoman Debbie Dingle has made an announcement. There are free COVID at-home test kits that you can get. 100% free, you can get 4 of them per household. Dan Solomon, my deputies, came in and said, it took me less than a minute to do it. I did it in probably 15 seconds. All you have to do is go to covidtest.gov, and in 15 seconds, I filled that form out, and they're going to send me 4 free at-home COVID test kits. covidtest.gov. Okay, does anybody else have any comments? No? Okay. We're moving on to public comment. Do we have anybody from the public that wishes to comment on any item that we're about to talk to about? John?
Evening, board. Excuse my attire, usually when I come up here to talk to the board, it's a presentation. I was on the phone and I was out of the area, so I didn't change quick enough. Good evening, board, staff. I'm gonna be a little winded, so bear with me. Since this is the first in-person meeting, since who knows when, I've noticed some changes and/or additions to the township hall. Wait a minute. That's not what I was here for. That's an agenda. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm actually up here to talk about the item that was put from the consent agenda onto item number 1.
Well, we want to talk about the cars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the reason why I focused here, and sorry about spacing off on something else. The reason why I brought that up is that I brought this up many times all the way back when Paul White was here and we changed this agenda. That your consent agenda is more or less a rubber stamp for housekeeping items. Some of those housekeeping items are very, very, very expensive. And although you had back in August, September of 2021, in a closed environment, it wasn't, even though it was open to the public, I'm sure nobody ever shows up, because I seem to be the only public, or 2 or 3 other people, being that I was awarded the ombudsman background from Jeff Jar back in 8 years ago or whatever. So I do take that as a positive. That during your finance or budget hearings, you discuss these vehicles. But at no time since then have you discussed those vehicles. There may be people that moved into the neighborhood in December or last week. And if they looked at the voucher list, or if they look at the voucher list in the future and see these large ticket items, and didn't hear anything else other than a rubber stamp consent agenda, it gets mixed. So what I'm saying is, it could have been the same way as if we spent $1.2 million on another platform apparatus truck. That's a big ticket item. $30,000 is a big ticket item. I was up here screaming and yelling years back when we bought 3 or 4 parade trucks that were all jimmied out with through Paul White's group or Linda Combs, that they look better than the stuff that was out there in the Christmas parade. So the idea that when you have these larger ticket items, we're not talking about pencils and erasers or paper. We're talking about larger ticket items. If you put them on a consent agenda, the public, your constituents don't get to see that like I do. I know exactly where to look in a voucher and find out how much we paid. But there's no discussion on how you got there,
Did you go to Atchison? Did you go to Sierra? Did you go to somewhere else? This is all done in your budget hearing. It's missed by the public. So when you put it on a consent agenda and it's a large ticket item, and you say, okay, we're approving 3 or 4 squad cars, we don't know what happened there. And to be more transparent, that type of item should be a discussion item that the board says, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and the supervisor has this permission to do it. All he needs is 3 signatures and 2 plus himself, and he can buy these things. But unless you take a civics class or something and you know how this township runs, because every township and municipality is different, we don't know where we're spending our money all the time. And we've had problems in the past, in the last 30 years, of issues with ticket items and budget. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is, and ask for this to be moved, is because these are large ticket items. It's not paper, it's not ink toner, it's not pencils or Q-tips. And yes, you did discuss it, yes, you did approve it back then. But to just run it through a consent item today, I don't think it's fair for the public, for myself included, to see something and then go, whoa, $90,000 if it's $30,000 a vehicle, just got approved, but how did you get this? Was the bid process fine? How many people, how many other companies put in? What, did we have GMCs? Did we have Dodges? Did we have Fords? How much were they? And so on and so forth. So those type of items going on in the future should not be rubber stamped. If we bought 100 guns or firearms or night vision goggles or anything in a large ticket item, it shouldn't be a consent.
Agreed.
That's all I'm bringing to the board because the constituents need to see that. When we look at it here, it says just approval.
Good wrap up.
Yeah, the approval of this item, I don't know how much you spent unless I go back. I know how much you spent, but the public doesn't. Thank you.
So we're gonna move right into that item, which is why I made it number 1, so that we can respond to your questions within the meeting. So can I get a motion for approval of the 3 police interceptors?
Support.
Boyton, Spud. Was it Tricia Bud? I think it was Bud, right? No, I'm sorry. There goes my earring. All right. Okay. So since I don't have any police officers here to speak on this issue, and I didn't think I needed them, but I did want, we want to be transparent, and there was a question from the community regarding them, so we pulled it off. Or I pulled it off with the board's approval. So the budget is a resolution to buy things. Only things like salary, commodities, pencils. Police interceptors are considered a commodity because they're in the state of Michigan commodity mitten, and there basically is a set amount of money that we pay for them. Ironically, you know, the markup on cars is not that big, but we have a procurement ordinance which allows hometown businesses to get a 5% advantage for calculating out who wins. They don't get 5% off or get 5% more, but they get that for calculation. So it becomes a moot point when you're buying a commodity off of a state list from a local contractor. But we had this concern about the trucks, and I told you I would never run these vehicles through you guys without letting you know that we were buying them. So that's why they're always here. I always let you know they're here, and I put them in the consent agreement. Because we used to just buy them without even putting them on the agenda. So that is why, for the public, for John, and for you, why we do it that way. You have any questions? We buy 3 every year, by the way. All right, hearing no questions, I have a motion by Trustee Boynton, supported by Trustee Miller. Hearing nothing, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The next item is a motion. I need a motion for approval for the next item, which is the approval of the 2022 through 2026 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Who's that, Mr. Martin?
I make a motion to consider approval of the adoption of the 2022-2026 Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Commissioner Bud? All right. So I'm glad everybody could make it tonight. I know that we were talking about not doing this, but as you all know, we have an incredible amount of grants that we're working on right now. I'm not sure, could Elizabeth, could you come up to the podium, please? Director Renault? Director, what is the total cost of the Ironville Trail? I believe we're 1.4 million or something short.
Yeah, I can get you a more accurate. Give me 1 second.
What's that for?
Can you give me an example of why we need to do this? You tell the public why we need to. So we apply for lots of grants, for lots of areas. But one of the things is they want to make sure that we have a plan going forward on how we're spending our money. So without the master plan, they won't award grants. So what is the Ironville?
So phase 1 of Ironville Trail is at 5.575 million. We've received informal approval of 1.5. But as of December 21, our shortfall is at about 1.85.
1.85 million to complete that trail.
For
We're planning,
phase 1.
what?
For phase 1.
Phase 1, 5.7, which is about 90% of the trail. It's some of the, I think the Denton Road Bridge is not included in there, because that's just going to be really expensive. But I just to give you an example, we are actively, aggressively going after grants, and we're winning. But we have a strategic plan to get more. So that's why we need this thing to go through. Does anybody else have any questions on anything Parks and Recreation? I'm going to ask Elizabeth, because I asked Elizabeth to prepare for a question that I was going to give her. Because a lot of people are wondering what's going on with the BAM. So could you, well, this is Parks and Recreation. It's in here.
So we're not approving the Parks and Rec master plan?
We are,
specifically?
but this is in the Parks and Recreation. BAM is,
The umbrella, you're
yeah,
calling it?
yeah.
Okay,
And it's in there, I don't think.
it's a stretch.
It is part of our Parks and Recreation plan, isn't it?
It's in community services, but separate from Parks and Recreation.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, read that.
Good evening, board. Again, I'm happy to present a short update on the Belleville Area Museum. So at the end of the last year, we discussed the future direction of the museum at a board of trustees meeting. I'd like to reiterate a point that was made at that meeting that Van Buren Township fully intends to keep the spirit of Old Van Buren Township Hall as a community historical museum. The township is in the preliminary stages of partnering with a firm that specializes in shaping a community's vision into tangible exhibit experiences. They have over 30 years of experience in the museum design field and have worked on hundreds of projects, including the Detroit Historical Museum, Dow Gardens, Henry Ford Hospital, the Arab American National Museum, and more. Partnering with this company, along with our museum partners, the city of Belleville and Sumter Township, we can get the most out of our community outreach and visioning phase. We'd like to plan on doing a public open house in March or April, but we're remaining cognizant of COVID-19 protocols in regards to large group gatherings. We want to stress that we're taking our time to make sure that we do this right. We want to be able to reach voices across our community and thoughtfully vision the space into a historical, educational, and community space that touches on so many different areas of our culture here in 48111. Additionally, we look forward to our continued work to make improvements to the facilities and grounds at the museum in the meantime. As I'm sure most of you have seen, the construction is currently happening on the Connected project at the museum. That project will wrap up in early spring, just about as we said, the landscaping improvement project.
That's everything I know, Parks and Recreation and BAM. Any questions?
So ballpark, will the museum open again? What's our end goal here?
So we're looking at that visioning phase to start hopefully in early spring and continue on through there. I think we'll have a better idea when we would actually open the doors. I know one of the big concerns is COVID related, so we kind of have to be cognizant with that as well.
Okay.
And in the winter months, we don't have much attendance anyway, so.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a motion by trustee Martin and supported by treasurer Bud. Okay, no further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. This also is in your packets of the 2021 Planning Commission's annual report. Do you want to make comments on that?
Just that when you put it down on paper, my goodness, that department certainly happened a whole lot of things. We didn't miss any meetings. We had a lot of Zoom meetings. Dan and his staff did an excellent job of keeping everybody up and appraised of what was going on, and building never stopped.
Director Power, did you want to speak?
I can briefly summarize the report from the board. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. As Treasurer Bud can attest, and as she just said, it was still a very busy year last year for the Planning Commission, although all of the formal meetings were virtual. There's still a lot of development activity. The Planning Commission had made actions on several items that I'll highlight here, a few of them. 15 different projects with some form of a site plan review component were acted on by the Planning Commission in 2021. 2 special land uses were reviewed. 2 zoning ordinance recommendation sets were zoning ordinance amendment recommendation sets were forwarded to the Board of Trustees for their consideration. There was 1 rezoning. There were also 4 public hearings held virtually and 4 actions on master plan items, all of which were related to the Sumter Road Corridor Master Plan. As I said, there were 18 virtual meetings. There was also 1 open air workshop at the fire station in the summer, which worked out quite well. There was a good space for people to meet and still have enough room to spread out. And that was for the Sumter Road Corridor Master Plan. The fruits of the labor of the Planning Commission over the last few years have revealed themselves as a number of very important projects in the township, and I'll review some of those right now. There is a 1.6 million square foot development at the Ashley Crossroads North site to the northwest of E-Course and Haggerty Roads. That site is about to go into its final phase of building with building 6, about 660,000 square feet of logistics and manufacturing space. There's a 53-acre site for the Chase Bank Data Center near Haggerty and Tyler Roads that's being redeveloped right now as we speak. There's also the 62,000 square foot assisted living and memory care building at the southeast corner of Morton Taylor and Tyler Roads, which is Hampton Manor project with 80 combined units for assisted living and memory care. And of course, we are rounding within the last stretch of the Sumter Road Corridor Master Plan, so you should expect to hear more about that in the coming months. There was some complication to construction activity in 2021 that is a remnant of some of the circumstances around the COVID pandemic. While there were 65 new home permits and 25 multifamily residential permits, that was actually a dip in number since 2020. There, however, were more certificates of occupancy granted than in 2020, with 62 certificates of occupancy for new housing units as opposed to 34 granted in 2020. We're finding that there are labor and materials shortages or supply issues, the cost of lumber and the time it takes to process important building items like steel that affected our community and other communities. But by and large, there's still a lot of interest in developing and building and growing here in Van Buren Township. I would encourage you, if you have an opportunity, just to, if you want to keep tabs on what is currently being built in the township, you can always check our website, and just a shameless plug to go over to the still active development planning and zoning maps page. If I have internet, I will, well, that's not going to work, but just if you're on that the main web page for the township, just head down to that development planning and zoning map section. You can follow the tab to the development site and click on points on the map where different projects are getting built. So you can find all the information about those projects, including a pop-up window that lets you access meeting minutes, reports, and plans of approval for those projects. I'm here to answer any questions about the Planning Commission's activity from 2021, or if you want to just follow up with me after the meeting, I'm glad to do that as well.
Supervisor, I'd just like to thank Treasurer Bud and the rest of the commissioners. They work really, really hard. And when you see these annual reports, you know why. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Director.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, so we're moving on then to public comment for non-agenda items. Does anybody want to make a, so John? Elaine, and then we'll go with the board. Tom, you have 3 minutes, and you have 1 2-minute option afterwards.
I'll take the 2 minutes or so. I'll start all over. Thing is, this is the first in-person meeting since who knows when. I've noticed some changes and or additions to the township hall. I see that our clerk and treasurer are protected for Armageddon with all the acrylic glass in their area. Not only was this a waste of money, what purpose does it serve other than restricting our current HVAC system? Since I'm an HVAC specialist, that's heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration, I can speak on this as a profession. Do any of you board members understand or know what an air balance study is or what it does? When a space that is required to have an HVAC system or an air balance test or study is performed to make sure that the occupants are breathing the proper amount of clean air and CO2 and dirty air is removed and captured in filters. If there are restrictions and or impedance of airflow, occupants could be at risk. Occupants or employees could be at risk. I can guarantee that this is not a thought when all that glass went up. What happens is, the way these systems are, you have fresh air coming in, bad air going out. But if it's restricted, you're not getting the proper airflow. So if you're in a smaller area, you're not getting that fresh air, you're just getting movement, and you're not getting enough movement. So actually, one of the hats that I wear is I'm in charge of 23 credit unions throughout the state of Michigan, and as the facility advisor. And that was the first thing I brought up, because the first thing they wanted to do was put all this plexiglass all over the place. By the time it was done, it was gerbils in the glass or fish bowls in the tank. And no air was getting around to the people in the basement or in the far end. So that's what I'm saying here, with all of this protection that we've got for Armageddon, you haven't looked into proper safety. So either you do an air balance or you start removing some of this restricted airflow glass that you have. Because number one, I see a little prejudice going on is the treasurer and the clerk are protected, but what about the seniors? What about anybody else in the building? To me, it seems like, and we don't carry any money, and we don't have anybody that can be kidnapped out here, and I haven't seen a township hall shot up yet. So I don't understand why we spend all this money, because that stuff's not cheap, that roof glass is not cheap, the light is not cheap, it's up $250. But for all that money that was spent, and then again, we only have 2 people or 2 officers protected. What about the planning? What about the trash pickup people? What about the whole building, other than 2 offices? So to me, there wasn't a lot of thought put in, number one, on the optics, number 2, on the expense, and number 3, on the safety of the occupational health of each employee in here that may or may not be breathing good, proper air. My 2 minutes is, I'm going to bounce around with 2 things. I'm a very big proponent on history. And I really want to be able to talk in the future about this dam and these other things, because I have some butt chewing, and it doesn't have to do with the complete board or the township. But in the last 30 years, our township board has ruined this community. We have a park out there, it used to be called Edison Park, it used to be called Edison Park, it used to be inhabited by Firestone, Mr. Firestone, Mr. Ford, and a bunch of other dignitaries that were out there. That was a private park back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. There was a steam locomotive engine out there. There was an airplane out there. there was so much stuff, there was gas lighting up, and all that stuff's disappeared over the last 35, 40 years. I still haven't found out where it's been, because I've FOIA'd many times in the last 4 administrations, and haven't got any answers with a lot of money from us on scrap or whatever. But this township needs to take into consideration, and bless her, I wish Kathy Horse was still alive, because she was our go-to person, along with Mr. Bill Dillon 20 years ago. But if you wanted to know what happened in this township back all the way up to when the Sioux Cemetery was being used, you could go to them and find out. I have been rewarded by talking to them in the past growing up here, and I've seen a lot of things that have been ruined, disappeared, and we have no more, we don't have touch anymore with what happened in this jewel of a town in the 1800s to the 1930s, when Mr. Ford was here vacationing on that little circle property out there with Mr. Firestone, Mr. Edison, and so on. People don't understand it. I've got a lot of information, and I'm sure Rosemary does through her dealings with Rosemary Atkin from the Independent, with her dealings with Kathy Horst in the past in the book that was put out, Water Under the Bridge. So we have a jewel here, and what we need to do is get back and find out where our roots were, and that museum is the biggest one. That museum needs to be open, and that museum needs to be funded by the Henry Ford Museum and Greenfield Village, which I've been saying for the last 25 years, and I've had contacts that I brought to this township, and they've been ignored, that the funding can come from them just because Mr. Ford was out there in his photographs at that park.
Thank you very much. Any board comments from the board?
Yeah, I got comments. Well, I guess, consider a comment, I want to talk about I would like to discuss the use of the dedication of high of the American Rescue Plan Act funds.
I'm sorry, I can't remember.
American Rescue Plan Act funds. I'd like to discuss the use of those funds. We're securing 2.9 million from those funds. I think we received 1.45 million already, with another 1.45 million coming later this year. I personally would like to see those 2.9 million go towards the building of the recreation center. I think that would put us a little bit closer to where we need to be. I congratulate you and what you're doing with the supervisor, what he's doing with the grant process, and Tammy and Elizabeth. I saw the presentation. It's a great presentation. I have high hopes for it. I hope we get something, but I think that just that will put us much closer to the total amount that we need to be. I'm a big fan of planning for yourself, and what we get from others is a bonus. I've always said, since I've been in this chair, that we can work our way through anything if you put all the heads together and plan it out. I love the grant process. It's a great thing. We always need to be looking for grants. I've always been a component of that also, but the grants are not guaranteed. I hope we receive them, but they are not guaranteed. I think this is a good use of this money because we haven't dedicated it. We didn't know we was going to receive it. It's like a bonus also. I think it would be a good use to a good place to put it dedicated towards, and whatever else we get would be a bonus. My proposal for the recreation center would be, we always talk about a $10 million number. I think we should budget around $10 million to bond out, use the 2.9 the harbor farm from the ARPA funds. We have a commitment from the DDA of 1.1 million, and the civic fund commitment of 1 million, which totals 15 million. And if we get anything from the with the grant, we should be well within what we need to secure the recreation center. That's my proposal. I would like to hear what the rest of the board thinks.
If I may comment, speaking of that federal stimulus money, I attended an MTA webinar a few weeks ago, and they went over on how we can use that money. And it's virtually, you could use that money for a recreation center, anything that's a lawful expenditure. It's better to sum up what we can't use it for. We can't use it for outstanding past debt, can't use it to, for matching funds for federal funds, but we can for state. We can't use it to offset taxes and can't use it for post-employment benefits. Anything else we could use that money for, such as the recreation center. So I just wanted to tell you that that MTA webinar is available for any one of you. They posted it, so you can go on there and maybe look at it yourself.
Okay. The way it was set up originally, it just changed, because you could only use as much money of that for anything you wanted to.
It did
You
just
could
change.
show loss somewhere else. Example would be COVID, nobody's writing tickets because it's dangerous to write tickets or whatever, they're not on the roads. So we're not getting very much ticket revenue. We can write that out, I think that's a 2.9. So we took that 2.9, purposely, because those are the rules that we were living under up until about 4 weeks ago. And we put it up, you put it all into last year, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't spend it. We haven't.
We haven't
It has fallen
decided,
to the bottom line, and it's fallen to the general fund surplus.
which it can only stay in there for so long. And Sherry knows that. She is
2 years, 3 years. Okay.
It's sitting in the balance sheet.
So the money isn't there, and
Yeah,
you
it's
don't
in the-
use for anything like that.
It's still in the fund balance with everything else files. I think that, I just think it would be a good use of the money, along with, we've funded, we've done a great job as a board. We've funded our way through the crisis of the, no fault of our own, of this beyond crisis, which is the biggest crisis I've seen. I think the biggest crisis any township could see. We probably should get a award for that, but we still in. And we did it together by using the dedicating and use of the funds that we receive. We get a generous amount of revenue from the landfill. And we always get, only thing we get sometimes is credit from the landfill in regards to being in the township. Well, along with that and revenues that come from the landfill, it's time that we put something back and give to the resident and say, okay, this is what you get for enduring the long-term venture of the landfill, which we've just renewed the contract. It helps us with our budget tremendously. We wouldn't have a budget if it wasn't for the landfill, basically. But we are fortunate to sit in the position that we sit in and get and receive the funds that we get from the landfill. And I just think it's just irresponsible of us not to put something back in the community from those funds that we receive. It irks me to the bone that we have to pay the amount of money that we're paying to pay for a venture that we can't use, we can barely use, which is this young building. I wish, I really hate to even, I don't even like thinking about it, but we have to, it's a bond we have to pay. So it's time for us to bond something that we can see and say that our residents can use, and leave something to say we did, because I'm coming to the end. I don't know about many others, but I am. So
no, you're not.
what I'd like to see something that I've done in my tenure to say it's something that we gave back to the township. That's all I'm gonna say on that. I have one more thing I would like to say, is that the treasurer and I met with, we met with a company today, UMed Diagnostic Services out of Canton. I've used them before, my family, I know a lot of people use them for COVID testing. We have about 12 employees that have to take testing on a weekly basis or bi-weekly right now. They are gonna start, they're gonna set up in the township starting next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. and provide COVID testing for not only those employees and employees that want a PCR test done. The kicker with this PCR test is that they're gonna start testing at 9 o'clock in the morning. If you get your test before noon, you have your results by 6 p.m. And I know that's true because I've done it before several times. They're gonna set up starting Monday. I'm gonna construct an email and send out to our employees tomorrow morning. Want to make sure it was constructed and given the correct information. I don't want to alarm anyone, but I recommend that we get tested regularly because this is the only thing that we can do to fight this virus going forward. The virus is still out there. We can say that we came this far, we got vaccines, but the fact of the matter is the virus is still out there, it's still killing people. Unfortunate, they saying that it's the ones that are unvaccinated, but we are having these breakthrough cases. And the information that we got today, the treasurer and I is alarming. These breakthrough cases are gonna be more and more, because they're still studying this thing. And I'm afraid that the virus is gonna be around for a while. We're back to square one. If you had asked me, we're back where we started from, we're testing again. When we should be coming out of this thing, out of this confrontation that we have with the virus, but we're back to testing and wearing masks. That should tell you something right there. I recommend, I'm gonna send it out in the morning, recommend all our employees get tested. It's not a mandate, but it's my recommendation is that we get tested. It's the only thing that we have to keep us safe and make sure that we provide the services that we need to the township on a daily basis. My office just got hit, as you know, feel sorry for a person that had to go out, but we just a notice that it don't care who you are and how cautious you are. Unless you know what's around you, you don't know the unknown. And that's the only way to know the unknown is just to get tested. This is election year for me. I plan on using it as much as possible because I can't shut down the clerk office. Don't mean to be rambling, but this is I'm very passionate about this thing, testing and making sure keeping our employees safe and keeping your family safe. You don't know who you're around when you go out of here. You go into other buildings, when you're around other people, when they would have wearing the mask or not wearing a mask, and you're not wearing the right protection, you just don't know what's happening. The only way we can stay safe day to day here, I think, is to get tested. And I hope you consider that. I'll send out more information in the morning.
If I can ask a question, will this be for township personnel staff only, or is it open to the public? And will there be written results like you would get at a CVS?
Right. This is for township employees, but we are going to also test our seniors that come to the building.
Awesome.
So they'll be allowed to be tested. We would like it for it to be much more than that, but we're going to see how it goes with the township employees first. And also, for any township employees that are considering getting the booster, you can also get your vaccination also. You can get your booster. So it's a one stop, go to work, get tested, get vaccinated. All right.
Is that long agenda? That's a long 3 minutes. Long budget. I would go 5, you were up the rim with 15.
Keep your word back.
So what I'd like to ask is.
I don't think I'm on the clock.
I shouldn't be either.
Okay, come on. Trustee Miller is clerk. Trustee?
So we have this economic federal stimulus money. I think the board needs to make a committed decision on how that is going to be made. The board needs to make that decision on behalf of the residents, and it should benefit as many residents as possible.
Okay. So nobody but the board can spend that money. I mean, God help us. I mean,
I understand that, but we need a plan in place.
we have a plan. At this point in time, we have a plan. So the plan is very simple. First of all, we have a budget that's trying to work off of. We have a $5 million gap. We are trying to get a grant for that. We're working very hard, and I think we're going to get hopefully a lot of that from this grant. We are spending general fund money, not a lot, but we are not slowing the process down one bit. We are full blown going through the exact plan that was set up. Okay, there is going to come a time when we bid this out and we actually have a number that we're going to have to bond out, that we will have to bond out and make a determination. Are we going to spend that money or not? But let me finish up. You can't ask for a $5 million grant if you don't need 5 million. So I don't want to spend the money and not need the 5 million and then not be able to ask for it.
My
Okay.
point again, you said this board already made a plan. No, we do not. Not for that stimulus money. We do not make a plan. We have a vision, but we haven't sat down and talked about it. That's what I'm saying.
So that was what, this is what I was working off of. That was what I was working off of right now. Okay, so right now, that's how what I'm doing. If you guys have a problem with it, maybe
But I think the
we can
board should
talk about
have
it.
input on that.
Okay,
I think, I'm not saying that the plan is not sufficient. The only thing I'm saying is that the plan has a big board in it. The plan is dependent on outside source. I hope it happens. So when will we know whether we're gonna get this grant or not?
you were in my office today. Every day, actually Thursday was the original time when they were going to take it before the Wayne County Commission to see if they were going to vote on it. Out of the 50 proposals that they've got in the county, ours is the only one that is completely done. It's ready to roll. It's got to go through their legal. So legal is trying to make a boilerplate contract up based upon our grant request, because we're the only ones that are ready to hand in the grant request. We're so far ahead of everybody. My problem with is that if we have a $17 million building and you promise 15 million of Van Buren money, you can't ask for $5 million in grants. So I'm putting that moment off as long as possible.
We still have to show, though, that we have a commitment that we're going to.
You sent the resolution.
We did that.
Yes,
This isn't non-agenda.
you sent the resolution.
Go away.
It's an
So
open
yeah, it
comment.
actually, you sent that resolution, which basically the opposite. No, you already had the three, you had the
Study is
two.
supposed to be for, this is supposed to be work study stuff. That's why there should have been a work study at 5 o'clock. So that all of this, because this is not non-agenda 3-minute, 5-minute, that's what a work study's for.
This is board.
It doesn't matter. It's supposed to be when your work study. This isn't on the agenda.
A board can have public comment as long as they want to.
Really?
There's no time limit to it.
We need to look into that.
It's just public comment.
Yeah, so in other words, yeah, we're not slowing down. We're moving straight ahead, the way the board told me to do it. And when we do need the money and we have exhausted our other areas, I will come to the board and ask you what you want to do.
Okay. As long as we have that understanding that that's what's gonna happen.
No, I know. I'm sorry, does anybody else want to speak?
That was board, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do I have support? Trustee Martin? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. You understand what I'm doing, right?